Good afternoon, and welcome you to the politics of underdevelopment, which we have been, talking about. And in today's class, we will be looking, which is still part and parcel of the study session one, which we actually embarked upon in the previous class. In today's class, we'll be looking into the origin of the concept of underdevelopment. And mind you, we have been able to conceptualize development and underdevelopment in the previous class, in which we have been able to give scholarly views or authorities on the definition of the concept of development and underdevelopment, and we have been able to make comparison why we can think that a particular country is not developing, why a particular country is developing. And I made reference to comparison between Nigeria and the Republic of Benin, that despite the fact that Nigeria is being viewed as not being developed, means that Nigeria is being compared with the so-called developed countries of the world, like the United States, France, Germany, Canada, Russia, China, and what have you. When Nigeria is compared with these, aforementioned countries, means that Nigeria is developing while those countries, are developed. But come down home, when you now compare Nigeria and Ghana, Nigeria and Republic of Benin, precisely, you will say that Nigeria is developed while Republic of Benin is, underdeveloped. So in this case, we will quickly look into the origin of the concept of underdevelopment, how it's, emerged, and who are the authorities or scholars that actually, brought this into famous. So these are the things that we will look into in today's, class, work. And going by that, we will see that the emergence of the concept of underdevelopment in the social science discourses, it is said, can be traced to the reaction of scholars in Latin America and Asia, precisely to the theoretical postulation of two distinguished economists, Arthur Lewis in 1950 and Dr. Paul Presbych. In this case, we shall examine their germinal work, that is, the economic development of Latin America and its principal problems, published in 1949. In this case, we will look into a review of Paul Presbych and Arthur Lewis, which means the meaning of the concept of underdevelopment. We are made to understand that Paul Presbych advanced that for the Latin America and indeed third world countries to develop, they must be able to reform their economic sector from just being exporter of primary products to embracing industrialization. We will see that if a country relies so much on importation, such a country, it is said, will be too dependent on other countries that relies on finished products or industrialization. That is the logic, of Paul, Brebish, which he was trying to, let us, understand. And he said that it is not just being an exporter of primary product, but to embrace industrialization where they can be able to turn their primary product into finished goods. By this, Prebish strongly criticized the economic strategy which states within the region adopted for rapid development, that is, an exploitative economic policy that advocates that countries that have comparative advantage in a product produced locally should export this good or commodity to the regions of the world. You see, what he was trying to let us understand that the principle of comparative advantage, if there's no in-depth look into it, it takes country for too much granted for too much exploitation, in which it is said that for those countries that they have advantage over the rest of others in producing primary product, it means they have to rely on that product continuously, which it is primary product, and they give it to develop countries who have the technological expertise to form this into finished goods. And at the end of the day, we return back to the regions where the primary products have been obtained. Therefore, those finished goods will come at the exorbitant rates. And that is the simple idea of international division of labor. Because those countries that rely in primary production of goods and services will not think beyond that level. They only think within the radius of producing primary goods to the advanced countries. But the scholars is letting us to understand that we should move away from producing primary goods to finished good and industrialization, because our primary products can be turned into finished good via industrialization, sophisticated technology, and expertise. That is, the government must be able to support this lofty idea in order to move the country forward. That is the idea. And Presbych further exposed the reality endemic in the hegemonic economic strategy concocted by the Western powers. We should always have it at the bottom of our hearts that the West cannot love us more than themselves. Whatever postulations they give to us, there's 60% hidden agenda in their favor. In whatever postulation, whatever help, whatever aid they want to give to us. We must wake up from our long slumber by relying too much on the judgment of the West. Because without African and other third world countries, the West cannot sustain their hegemony politically, economically, socially, and what have you. Because they know that we have a lot of endowed resources that the ultimate reality has bestowed on us. Therefore, they must make sure they create all sorts of things in order to call divide and rule within or among us. According to him, the industrialized nations determine the times of trade, can you see, prices of commodities and goods produced to serve their interest. This coupled with the intermediacy inherent in the international markets. You can see that having obtained the primary product from us, they will still turn it into finished good, and having turned it into finished good, they now sell the finished good to us at a very, very exorbitant price. So you can see their logic of exploitation, and it is equally said that by this methodology, it's actually impinged on the developmental plans of the region. Hence, Prebisch advocated for substantive industrialization, which entails that for Latin America to develop, it must transform from being exporters. So also, Africa must transform from being exporters of primary products to being manufacturers who will transform primary products to finished goods. And when we are talking about the example of primary products like cocoa, cashew, granite, and rubber, what have you, which are being exported to developed countries of the world, and in return, you discover that we are receiving the finished goods, like cocoa being turned into chocolate and some other beverages. So at the end of the day, the finished good is higher compared to the primary product that we should transform into manufacturers who will transform primary product to finished goods. Secondly, Arthur Lewis, who focused on the West Indies, advanced the ideas of industrialization by invitation. He argued that for the West Indies to develop, they should channel their resources through the development of human resources for the metropolitan markets. That is, human resources. You develop, when a country lacks human resources, such a country will find it very difficult to transform, because human resources, they are very key, the foundation to turn the natural resources into usable developmental goal of a country. However, in his understanding that locals do not have the capacity to establish industries, he posits that the government within these states should do all that it must to attract as much foreign investor as possible. This will ensure that the unemployment rate, which was so high in this region, is drastically reduced, ultimately boosting economic growth and development. You will agree with me. For example, in Nigeria, where at the state level and at the federal level, where the government is trying to do all that is possible in order to attract foreign investors into our country to give citizens the opportunity to be employed. Because where foreign investors try to run away, it will be very difficult for such country to grow, because unemployment will be at the high rates. Crimes and criminalities will be just like we are witnessing in this present situation in Nigeria, where insecurity is on the high rise, and the primary function of every responsible government is to provide for security, is to protect lives and properties. Boko Haram here and there. We have agitations here and there. We have crimes and criminalities here and there. And we have 419ers. Nobody is sincere. That is that is the predicament of the underdeveloped state. You can see the agitation for secession and all that, like Sunday Igboho in the southwest, like Nnamdi Kanu in the southeast, and we have the Boko Haram in the north, or ISWAP in the north, and all that. And nobody is safe. In fact, just yesterday, a DG of the federal government agency was shut down along Port Harcourt Enugu Road, and in which where we have the Greenfield student in Kaduna, university, Greenfield student, one of the private universities in Kaduna, they were kidnapped, and then they were asked to pay, what I would tag as a staggering amount of money as a ransom. Interestingly, the intellectual works of these two scholars came at a time when the nationalist movement in the Third World were gathering momentum. These movements were further strengthened following the economic meltdown in the United States in 1929, which spread around the world, causing a major contraction in demand, prices, and products of goods and commodities, in which the third world countries solely rely on them. Because when United States of America and other developed countries of the world, whatever that happens to them, definitely we affect the third world countries. And what makes this to happen? Simply because the third world countries rely heavily on them for survival. This had a heavy toll on the colonial people, and thus rejuvenated the spirit of nationalism among the people. Furthermore, diverse movements emerged which sought for establishment of a government that regulates the market, in complete defiance of the principle of laissez-faire. So, a lot for us to understand since the origin of underdevelopment actually came about. It has made us to really understand that any society that is bereaved of human and capital resources, such a country is doomed to underdevelopment. In Nigeria, one of the fallouts of the global economic meltdown, which was more conspicuous, is the Aba Women Riot of 1929. The women were protesting economic policies imposed on the following youth, the global economic meltdown, which was endemic at that time. This gave the nationalist leaders impetus to clamor more strongly for a political economy. So these are the predicaments afflicting underdeveloped countries, and as a result of that, underdeveloped countries must move from manualization to digitalization, from primordialism to modernism. They must be able to actually, learn on how to develop more and more on what that have been developed, and also exchange of ideas, transfer of technologies. They can equally try to send their expertise to developed countries of the world to go and get modern training, so that when they come, they build on the trainings which they have obtained. Because it is said that nothing is static in life. Life itself is dynamic. So it is on this premise that we, in the interim, end this lecture, which covers the study section 1. In the next, topic, we'll be taking on study section 2. And the method of teaching, my teaching, precisely is that I try to have a video shot on each study, which a student can easily click and listen to the overall summary of the lecture. See you another time, and God bless you. Thank you.